Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host Brett Murphy, and for today's video I have a brand new cinema showdown versus video for you all, and it is going to be Avatar versus Avatar: The Way of Water. So anytime a movie sequel drops, it is automatically, innately compared to the original to see if it is a superior version of the first movie or if it stumbles and falls victim to sequelitis. And now, after a massive 13-year wait, we have our first sequel to 2009's Avatar with Avatar: The Way of Water that just released this past weekend. And I must say, when it comes to sequels, there aren't many out there that do it better than James Cameron. The man is responsible for the likes of Aliens from 1986, as well as Terminator 2, aka T2, Judgment Day. Arguably two of the greatest, if not the two greatest sequels ever made. So was this man able to catch lightning in a bottle for a third time, or was 13 years just too little too late? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to find out. Before I hop into the actual showdown itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my versus videos. There are plenty in there. Movies versus movies, franchises versus franchises, even a director versus director, and actor versus actor, and I'm working on plenty more that are coming your way very soon. So be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Round 1. Plot. So in this first round, we are talking about just the base plot. The plot in its simplest form, nothing about the pacing of the movie or anything else, how it plays out, nothing. This is just the base plot to the movie that we are talking about in this first round. And it's no surprise at all, because this is arguably the biggest criticism of the first Avatar movie, but the original's plot is indeed quite basic. Most people liken it to other movies like Dances with Wolves, Fern Gully, or even Pocahontas. It is familiar, yes, but still enjoyable. My point has always been, whenever people say these sort of things to try and trash this movie for whatever reason, if none of those other movies that I just listed get any shit for having the same plot, why should this one? The Way of Water's plot is also still fairly basic, but it does add some much needed key elements to sort of liven things up, like the family dynamic, new areas of Pandora to explore, a new way of life for our main characters to learn, and I also feel it has some excellent ties to the original. I was initially concerned, again, this was a massive 13-year gap, and James Cameron addressed that with a time jump in this universe, so I was a little concerned as to how they were going to play things out. We saw some things in the trailer, like some returning characters that were recently deceased, but for me, they were able to satisfyingly make everything make sense. Once again, neither one of these movies does anything new or special when it comes to their plots, but I did find The Way of Water added in some much needed newer elements that helped to elevate it ever so slightly over the original. Round 1 is going to go to The Way of Water. Round 2. Storytelling. Now this is the round where we talk about the pacing of the movie, what surprises it might have in store for us, and just kind of the way that the story plays out overall. The first Avatar clocks in at around 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yes, that is still quite long, but I have personally always found it to be miraculously well paced. Although the base plot may play out in familiar ways, its imaginative world, creative sci-fi elements, and lovable characters manage to keep the movie always feeling fresh and exciting. The primary issue that I had with The Way of Water is its quite lengthy runtime. It is over a half an hour longer than the original, clocking in at 3 hours and 12 minutes. Although I must admit, even with this extended runtime, the pacing is still surprisingly decent. But I did feel that there were some sections that probably could have been shortened or just scrapped altogether to get that runtime just even a little under 3 hours. Though, like I just discussed, I do feel that the base plot of this movie is a little more inventive and unique than the originals. It didn't really do much in terms of surprises, nor did the story play out out in any unexpected ways. I enjoyed the hell out of this deeper dive into Pandora, and I loved the family at the heart of it all. And I also enjoyed the various perspectives that this movie offers by jumping between different characters. Though by the end, the way that this story plays out ends up being quite predictable and fairly by the numbers. This round is going to go to Avatar. Round 3. Lead characters. For the first Avatar, we have Jake Sully, Neytiri, and Colonel Miles Quaritch as our main villain. And honestly, I love all three of these. Sam Worthington, for some reason, has gotten a bad rep for being a bit of a boring, personality-less actor, but I've truthfully never found that to be the case. A lot of the time, it comes down to the roles that he selects, but in this first Avatar movie, I fully felt that he delivered. Zoe Saldana, on the other hand, as Neytiri, gave by far the best performance of the movie. Whether it was the emotional beats or the bold, empowering beats, she hit every single mark that she needed to. And then you have Stephen Lang as Colonel Quaritch, and I just simply love this guy. Anything that this dude is in, you can count me in as well. He always delivers. He is the rough and tough, merciless, ruthless, brutal military leader in this one, and he totally sells you on it. He was a phenomenal villain. As for Avatar: The Way of Water, you once again have Jake Sully, Neytiri, their children, Kiri, Neteyam, Loak, Tuktiri, and Spider as their sort of adoptive extra child, with Quaritch returning with a bit of a twist as our main villain once again. Sam Worthington, in my opinion, arguably gives an even better performance in this one. I did find Neytiri to be a bit more sidelined, actually, but anytime that Zoe Saldana is on screen, she is always sure to deliver. I did find it a bit weird at first with Sigourney Weaver playing a 14-year-old, but by the end it actually worked and I really loved her character. And the family dynamic, the kids along with their parents, are what really sell this movie and make it all that it is, and each of these children had their own distinct, unique personalities and traits, and I fell in love with each of them by the time this runtime came to a close. Spider I didn't really care for much in the beginning, but by the time the movie wrapped up, I actually did like him a fair bit, and I thought his story, the dynamic he had with various characters, was quite interesting. And then of course you have Quaritch back. Once again, like I just said, I'm always on board for more Stephen Lang. I was a bit apprehensive as to how they were going to bring him back and explain it away, but I actually really thought it was well done. This is a close one, of course, because you have many overlapping characters, but I found The Way of Water offered more lead characters with the family at the heart of it all, and I thought that each of these child and older actors all delivered exquisite performances, and I was on board with each and every one of them, so I'm gonna have to give this round to The Way of Water. Round 4. Supporting characters. For the first Avatar, you have Grace, Norm, Trudy, Sute, Atukan, Parker, and Max. Most of these characters are all fairly likable, just none of them are all that memorable, except maybe Grace and Trudy. I remember Michelle Rodriguez giving a very strong performance in this movie. I liked her heart and her fight, and I also, of course, love Sigourney Weaver in just about everything. She is just a wonderful actress all the time. She's an icon. The rest, however, fairly forgettable. For The Way of Water, and I know I'm going to pronounce probably all of these wrong, you have Ronald, Tonowari, Tissareya, Atoning, Roxo, Mowat, Norm once again, Scoresby, Dr. Garvin, and General Ardmore. The two main ones that you're going to remember from that list are Ronald, played by Kate Winslet, and Tonowari, played by Cliff Curtis. They both gave incredible performances in my opinion. Again, they delivered on the powerful moments, the moments of fear, the moments of anguish, the moments of agony, and then just the fight scenes too were great, the emotional beats were great. They were by far the two biggest standout supporting performances. And Tissareya, played by Bailey Bass, she was also excellent. The rest were just fine in my opinion. For this one, there were only a couple strong performances from the supporting characters, and the rest were fairly forgettable for both movies. So when comparing those stronger performances, I think I'm going to have to give a slight edge to Bailey Bass, Kate Winslet, and Cliff Curtis for their roles in the winner of this round, The Way of Water. Round 5. Action. I would argue that the first Avatar has more action sequences, and they do go a bit bigger. I will never, and I mean never, forget that massive epic final battle. I mean, you have air combat, you have ground combat, and then the final fight between Quaritch, Jake, and Neytiri. The action felt more consistent to me in the original, and it helps to break up the pacing a bit better. Even if it's just one of the various chase sequences, or something as simple as Jake learning what it means to be part of the Na'vi and live like them with all of his training. Yes, The Way of Water doesn't have as many action sequences, but I would argue also that they are visually more appealing than that of the first. Primarily thanks to the uptick in visuals due to it coming out 13 years after the original. There are unbelievable water effects, the best I have ever seen, and the water is used as part of the combat, and it's done so very effectively and quite uniquely. There's also some new variety in the wildlife of Pandora, as well as some new gadgets and tech for our humans to use. Though I admire the way that The Way of Water really tried to mix things up in the action department, the final battle was just better in my honest opinion in the first Avatar. The action was more consistent and even a little bit more exciting, so I'm gonna have to give this round to the original Avatar. Round 6. Style, aesthetic, direction. This one is a bit tougher to determine because of course we have the same director with the great James Cameron, and they're both set in the same world, it's just Pandora. But we must all admit, whether you loved the movie or hated it, Avatar offered us up a brand new world unlike anything we had ever seen before. From the beautiful vibrant colors, to the wildlife, to the way that our characters dressed, to all this new crazy massive technology that humans are just light years away from during the present day. And of course, James Cameron's direction is just simply magnificent. The Way of Water introduced us to new unseen territory of Pandora, the underwater life, brand new costumes, and even a slightly altered look to the sea people. And of course, like I just mentioned in the action round, there are some new toys and tricks and gadgets and tech for our humans to use. This one, once again, is so tough because these movies are so similar, which makes sense considering it's a first movie and its sequel. Though I really appreciate how much new that Avatar: The Way of Water had to offer, I just will never ever forget my first time seeing everything that Pandora had to offer. So because of how unique it was at the time and how unique it still is, I'm gonna have to give this round to Avatar. Are you looking for the perfect gift for the movie lover in your life, or maybe you just want to treat yourself? Then look no further than the most unique piece of movie art you could possibly have with Movie Palette. Visit moviepalette.com right now and use code BAM15 at the checkout for 15% off your order. And now, back to the video. Round 7. Cinematography, visuals, editing. Both of these movies very much do feel cut from the same cloth. Despite the change in director of photography, James Cameron kept pretty much the entire same editing team, and to the best of my knowledge, worked with the same VFX studios. Both of these movies have absolutely breathtaking cinematography, and some people argue that because it's all CGI, it's not cinematography, but anything that you see on screen, someone had to visualize that, whether it was done in the real world or done in a computer. It is still cinematography. They had the cameras in certain spots, they set up these beautiful, gorgeous, stunning landscapes. It's cinematography. Massive, stunning wide shots, epic battle sequences, smaller, more intimate moments, and lots of artificial, natural beauty from Pandora. The editing for both of these movies too is superb. I never felt like the camera was shaking too much or that there was too much going on screen for me to focus. Yes, some people didn't like the higher frame rate from The Way of Water. I didn't mind it at all. Honestly, I hardly noticed it. I never felt like there were weird edits or strange cuts, it honestly all flowed super well. The visual effects then is what it really comes down to in this round. The original Avatar, yes, now even 13 years later, is simply gorgeous. It truthfully looks better than most movies released today. It revolutionized CGI in movies and set a brand new standard for the industry that some studios still struggle to reach now. The Way of Water is all of that and then some. I'd say something like 95% of this movie is completely CGI and it looks flawless. Not once, in my opinion, did anything look odd or out of place or noticeably fake. What I did notice is the improvements in the lighting, the improvements in the reflections, in skin tones, in the complexity, seeing like pores and wrinkles and just definition over all of the characters as well as all of the landscapes. The water and explosion simulations were vastly improved. All of the new aquatic life, and again, just the shooting underwater, because they actually did shoot underwater and used that footage for the underwater sequences in here, and it makes the world of a difference, as well as some familiar stuff that also saw updates from within the forests of Pandora. All of it simply blew my mind. So if you couldn't tell, this round I'm gonna have to give to The Way of Water. Round 8, Music and Sound. The first Avatar was composed by the late, legendary James Horner, who gifted us with one of my favorite movie scores of the last 20 years. Elegant, powerful, and just filled with beauty and wonder. Instantly iconic. The sound design was immaculate too, from the wildlife to the big battle sequences filled with explosions and gunfire and spears and arrows. The mechanical sounds of the robot suits that the humans wear, as well as like the heavy machinery and the helicopters. And the sound mixing is excellent too. Despite much of the chaos that can ensue in this movie at times, it never drowns out any of the voices or loses any of the stakes or emotions. The sound design and mixing in The Way of Water are every bit just as good, if not actually a bit better in some areas than the first. Unfortunately, like I just alluded to when I was just talking about the first Avatar, unfortunately and tragically, we lost the impeccable James Horner back in 2015. Long before he had ever had the chance to work on this sequel. Simon Franklin then took over the reins for this one, and he still used much of Horner's original work in this sequel, which of course I liked, and the new stuff is also fantastic too. So don't get me wrong on that part at all, I'm not trying to discredit Franklin whatsoever, but just so much of this score noticeably once again stems from Horner's original work. And so I'm going to have to give this round to Avatar. Final round, Memorability. So this one, yes, is a tough one, I must admit, considering that as of the recording of this video, The Way of Water isn't even a week old yet. Whereas the original, just a couple days ago, is now officially 13 years old. So yes, a lot of this is really going to depend on the passage of time. Whether we get one more Avatar movie to make it a complete story with 3, or we make it all the way to a 5th Avatar movie following James Cameron's original vision. So I'm just going to try and do my best here. Basically, in almost every single way, I find The Way of Water is just as good as the original. And in some areas, it's even better. Like how the visuals have noticeably improved, the story has a bit more intrigue and a few added elements, and it has more main characters for us to follow, all of which are just as good as the next. But honestly, I feel that The Way of Water might get lost in the mix a little bit depending on how many of these Avatar movies we get. I mean, if we get all 5 Avatar movies, are we even going to remember The Way of Water at all? Are we going to look back on The Way of Water as fondly or as controversially as we now do with the original? For me, I think not. Look, facts are facts. For better or for worse, the first Avatar has stuck in people's minds for over a decade. The visuals for the first back then were an even bigger leap than The Way of Water is now. And despite this sequel offering a brand new look at a whole new area of Pandora, no one is ever going to forget our first trip there. And so I'm going to have to give this final round and determine the winner to be Avatar. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my winner. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know how you would have scored each of these rounds and who your overall winner would have been. If you're a movie lover whatsoever, then my channel is the place to be for you. Be it versus videos like this one, ranking videos, top 10s, tier videos, I do it all and so much more, with over 600 videos already on the channel for you to enjoy and many more on the way. So if you enjoyed this particular video, then be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more content from me and if any of that sounds like it's right for you, then smash that subscribe button right now. While you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon, that way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.